752. And we have a returning guest here, actually just in time, because I have a few questions about cybersecurity myself with the Ukraine-Russia situation that's happening right now and what they're talking about on the news. But we have Jack Lindberg from Safe Internet Pro here. He's been on the show before, and his specialty is helping agents make sure they are secure in their transactions and their interactions through online and in the real transaction in real life. So, but before we get to Jack, Ruth, what is happening in Las Vegas?
I'm going to put you in the lobby, and I'm going to talk about the stats for February 19th, another day in paradise in beautiful Las Vegas. So we've got, 22 days of inventory, and I'll tell you why. Because we're selling 112 homes a day. And the more homes we sell, the less days of inventory we have. However, it looks like spring is springing on us because people are starting to list their homes. We listed 164 homes yesterday, which is fantastic. I think that's the largest number of daily just listed this year. I'll get it out there. And we put 108 under contract. We closed 134 for a total of 2,013 sales so far this year. And we are just 34 sales behind last year, which was a record year with 50,735 homes sold last year. If you add that to the new homes, it'll be 62,000 homes sold last year. So if you don't think there's any inventory, look again. 62,000 homes was a lot of inventory, and they all got sold. So there is inventory. It's just that we're selling them quickly. They come on the market, they go. It's not like we're dwindling down to no inventory. It just comes and goes quickly. So just keep that in mind if you're a seller. You know, the median price home just went up to $456,000 this week. So you have more equity in your home. And that is what I think is causing more and more single family home owners to list their homes because they see that they're getting top dollar for their home. So they want to go buy another home, and the interest rates are inching up there. Not much. I mean, historically, the interest rates are really still awesome. And one thing for sure, sell your home now. And the home you buy by the end of the year, it will have appreciated at the rate we're going. The supply and demand is going to continue to increase our prices. So we have been selling $1 million homes for about 4 a day. Last year, we were doing 4.5 a day. So we're getting up there to on par with last year. And we have 6, let's see, we've got how many? 181 that we've sold so far this year. And right under 400 available $1 million homes. And I just want to show everybody this really cool home that came on the market. I loved talking about the $1 million homes. And this home is actually $5,999,000. And it was just listed 2 days ago. It is in Ascaya, a new desert contemporary luxury estate home. And it is staged, virtually staged, but it's absolutely beautiful. The setting is beautiful. Look at that beautiful door. The home has 5,700 square feet. And again, it's $1,060 per square foot at just under $1 of $6 million. Beautiful home, and it is available. Czar is the listing agent. Czar Zangin, he's fantastic. As you can see, he really goes after those $1 million homes. He sold several in Red Rocks, several in the Ridges. He's all over the valley in the $1 million home range. So kudos to him for that beautiful home. And let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Las Vegas, Max. I'm going to bring some things up here and welcome your comments. So there's now Alaskan Airlines is offering a fixed price monthly subscription, just like Jack was talking about earlier. Wow. Alaska Airlines. So you can get 6 to 24 flights per year. It's a monthly fee. I don't know what it is. I think it depends on, you probably have to take a survey and it tells you what the price is going to be. But you can go to Los Angeles and San Francisco from Vegas. Those cities are on the list. So if you're commuting or have need to be back and forth from Los Angeles and San Francisco, it'll save you money. So I thought that was like a subscription fixed price from Alaskan Airlines. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
And then, and then what's going on here? We've got the championships coming. The Mountain West Basketball Championships are coming the first week of March. Now, I don't know a lot about that because I'm not a basketball fan.
It's college basketball. So the
Uh-huh.
NCAA tournament is about to start. It's called March Madness. So this is the Mountain West Division's kind of, championship. So whoever wins that gets to go to the dance, as they call it.
And we're there. We're in it, right? This year?
So I don't know. I haven't been following college basketball. It's actually been pretty silent in the media for the most part. So, I think the Super Bowl kind of took over things. And so I haven't been really following college basketball. Maybe look into it.
Yes. Thank you. Let's see. Oh my gosh. So the Wynn Encore sold their Boston property for $1.7 billion. And but they're leasing it back for $100 million per year. And we've seen that play all over Vegas. It's been happening in Vegas as well. Some of the major casinos have sold their real estate, but leasing back the building and, of course, the casino. So that's putting more cash flow into these casinos to upgrade and update and add things. So I think that's a fantastic thing for Wynn. That's really cool. 1.7 billion.
Yeah, as I think about it more, I'm wondering if these large casinos knows, kind of the trajectory of real estate here. And they're just dumping their real estate to these hedge funds, which are flush with cash and need to place cash somewhere to get a decent return that can beat out or meet inflation and get any type of return right now. And they're winning two ways, right? The casino operators they have cash flow. They have a huge infusion of cash.
Right.
And two, there's a possibility if, 5 years down the road, 6 years down the road, real estate, halts or stalls a little bit, they may be able to pick up their land back pennies on the dollar, much like the Fertittas with Red Rock Casino. Right. I don't know I think they've, bought and sold their own casino.
Well, they went bankrupt.
Right. And then they end up buying it back for half as much or pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar. Amazing.
So we'll see.
And speaking of casinos, in 2021, the gross gaming revenue was $53 billion. It was a record year for the casino industry. And that's just amazing to me. And the results are nothing short of remarkable, said AGA President and CEO Bill Miller. That's amazing.
I mean, there's money out there. That's the thing. Like people think, there's a shortage of money, but there isn't, because Las Vegas and Nevada gaming had the best year in the history of gaming.
Max, we talk about the 5 trillion versus the 7 trillion in cash in the United States. And somebody in one of our classes that Jimmy and I taught this week, when I brought that up, they said, the rich are getting richer, but the poor are getting poorer.
Well, that is that is true. The wealth divide is growing, right? Because of this. But from the gambling revenues, I would beg to differ that the middle class and some of the lower middle class are spending money too.
Yes,
and
they are.
They have money as well. It's not I don't.
I'd like to see the stats on
the
that.
Stats, right? That'll be interesting.
Yeah. So what else have we got here? Oh, we broke the previous record by more than 21%.
21%. During the midst, who knows? I think we're out of the pandemic already, but who am I? I'm not an expert.
Right. And then if where Terrible Herps and that casino is in Jean, well, that's been non-operational since the pandemic. And now there's some folks from Reno are looking at purchasing the land that whole real estate plus 140 acres in Jean to put a 1.9 million square foot distribution center there. So, and they're still in acquisition phases. It's still a proposed idea, but that would be fantastic.
That would make absolute sense.
Yes.
And then once they have, a distribution center, they can maybe start building to maybe a little bit of residential, maybe a little bit, some other industrial, so that jobs can move out there. I mean, because outside of you going to right, outside of you going to that casino at State, and the casino at State Line, there's really no reason to go out there. I mean,
right. There is a little airport out there. There is the prison for, I think it's a women's prison, about 250 inmates in there. Yeah, so that's on the docket. We'll see what happens.
Right.
And then downtown in Las Vegas, Carolyn Goodman just cut the ribbon on the movie prop experience, and I think this is in the Neonopolis Center, isn't
downtown?
Downtown, and they're going to be having I think they have Harry Potter props, from all types of movies. And I think that the one of the owners said that she was even getting a dress from I didn't see the movie, so I can never remember the name. Who walked down the golden path?
Dorothy.
Wizard
of Oz.
Yeah, thank you. I never saw that movie. I keep saying
you've never seen The Wizard of Oz? Wow,
that's terrible. That's embarrassing. Okay, what else is going on? That's it for Las Vegas. One other thing I will bring up: Oakland moves forward with a stadium study. So they're thinking of putting their They're thinking of putting their stadium right here, in San Francisco. However, they're having challenges with permits and using that land for that instead of affordable housing. So they're having their, political issues, but we shall see. We shall see what they end up doing, because, they're still planning to build a Major League Baseball stadium in the Bay Area or Las Vegas. Las Vegas, if you read the article in the RJ this morning, it says that it still is looking at Las Vegas, and that was the center as being the center of the sports world, and so they would like to have their ball team here, but we shall see. Evidently, there's some more politics going on there. And actually, I will say one thing: the person that wrote this article did say that Las Vegas has much better infrastructure to handle this, and it would be great for the Oakland A's. They think it would bring more people to their games, and I think so too. So
absolutely,
yeah.
And just getting to the games, out of the games. I mean, it's going to be a much more pleasant environment than like the heart of San Francisco right now.
Yeah, so, I agree. I totally agree. You're on, Jack. So lots of things going on in Vegas. It just never ends, does it?
Right. Yeah. No, it never doesn't.
All these issues. You were talking about Oakland. It's like, well, those people there are going to either love or hate us because we're taking all the sports teams.
I think they'll like us because any reason to get out of Oakland, I think, is a good reason. I mean, I've been to Oakland, and
yeah, I've been there too.
Yeah, that's why real estate's half as much in Oakland as it is in San Francisco. Yeah, so. But exciting stuff.
Affordable housing in San Francisco. It's like, yikes! What is that for? They have a couple friends who build high rises. They're part of a company that builds high rises in downtown San Francisco, and I've been down there. Actually, they were finishing out some space for Facebook in one of the tall buildings downtown San Francisco, and kind of interesting to be down there. I hadn't been there in years, and they have of course their issues with homeless and stuff like that, but still a cool city. I mean, there's still some cool aspects to it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to Jack here. He's on the show. He's going to talk about how you can keep your cybersecurity and internet and online transactions. And as a real estate agent, especially with wire fraud happening the last few years, and the new war that we're having around fraud is all done through online transactions and interactions and social media and things of that nature. I mean, social engineering is a huge part of how these cyber criminals gain information and identity theft. So before we to dive to a deck, just remind us here. I mean, again, Jack Lindberg is with a Safe Internet Pro. Give us a little bit about your background and your history in both cybersecurity and real estate.
A little bit. This guy has more background than we have time to listen to.
Right. Yeah, the Cliff Notes, Jack.
first got my real estate license when I was 20, so I've been in real estate my whole adult life, basically. Always been on the techie side of things, though. And then in '97, I flipped over to the tech side completely. And so I've always been aware of the technology issues. And originally back in '08, '09, I wrote books, Facebook real estate, LinkedIn real estate, to help agents do the basics, right, to get on there. But after a few years, I started to see some concerns about the amount of information that these sites were, making available to just anyone. And so I started, looking at, well, how do we balance this, right? How do we limit some of that personal stuff? Because if Facebook had its way, your entire life history would be on Facebook that people can look up. So there's a balance there, and you should keep all of your business activity limited as much as you can to a business page, which Facebook has. And of course, Ruth, you have plenty of classes on how to do your Facebook pages and things. So I highly recommend taking those classes and getting that training, because you shouldn't just be on Facebook willy-nilly. It's too revealing. It's one of my favorite stalking tools. So I spent years stalking people just for practice, and I found out how easy it was. I mean, it started with other speakers. I wrote my books. I was supposed to be the guy, right? And then, so, I'd travel around the country, and some associations would tell me, oh, we already have a local person teaching that. Oh, yeah? So I'd go look them up online, and I'd see that their Facebook was wide open, and they didn't know how to use friends and all the things that we try to teach. And so, I would just shake my head saying, you're not having the right teaching, and that's key. You have to be taught how to use sites like Facebook correctly, or the criminals will find your weaknesses and take advantage of them.
Do you think real estate agents have gotten better at paying attention to cybersecurity and keeping their information and their clients safer through the years?
I think they have.
I'm sorry.
I think they have, Jack.
I was just going to say, was that a serious question?
Well, no, but I think your classes have really helped people. And you've taught a lot of people, and I think it's really helping.
Well, the hard part is we've got, 15, 16, 17,000 agents in this association here alone?
Yeah, but only 2,000 of them do most of the business.
Yeah, and we
need to reach them.
1,000, we maybe taught 1,000. So there's a long ways to go, because the average agent, I still see a lot of Gmails out there.
I was just going to say that. I still see a lot of Gmail accounts out there as well.
Yeah, it's still close to 50%, I'm sure. And people don't understand that Gmail is a huge, risk factor in terms of wire transfer fraud and all that. The FBI says don't use these free, web-based email services. So we teach you how to use Gmail correctly. There is a way you can use Gmail correctly. But otherwise, it's just best to get your own domain name. And why not? It's more professional looking anyway to the public. To have your, like me, Jack at jacklindberg.com is one example versus, Jack Lindberg 1738, whatever number makes sense to me at Gmail. How the client's going to remember that. So it's interesting that so many people still cling to their Gmail and their other email accounts.
You mean Jack? You mean Jack sells Vegas at gmail.com is not professional?
No.
Well, and I tease agents. I say, look, you're getting thousands of dollars, and that dollar's going up with the price of homes, right? That's the beauty of real estate, is that your income is, it's adjusted to inflation automatically, but you're getting tens of thousands of dollars in many cases for a commission. And yet the clients see you using this free email. They're thinking, well, where's all this money going that you're making? They're spending it on your email or a website or whatever. So, it's a website and branded email is one of the cheapest ways to make yourself look professional and control your image out there online. Really, it's just so cheap to do that. A website and email.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just mentioned one of the most common kind of ways thieves and fraud people get into information on transactions is through email, right? I mean, that's probably the number one way right now still, right? Can you tell us, some of the other pitfalls that real estate agents fall into and what they do? Can maybe top, 2 or 3 more that they can possibly avoid or mitigate some of the cybersecurity stuff that's happening right now?
Well, the class we're having on Monday, which anybody watching, if you haven't taken it already, or even if it's been a couple of years, we've changed it now.
Yeah.
We actually worked with the commission for a year, Ruthie and I, to get them to create a new category in licensing requirements called risk reduction. And risk reduction, our class was the first one to get qualified for this new category. And so it's that important. When we showed the commission, and we even brought in a detective from Las Vegas Metro, who that's all he does is cybercrime. And he said real estate's 90% of his job. So we have a ways to go, and he's got unlimited stories on things he has to deal with. But our class deals with 4 key areas. The number one and the easiest to solve, in my mind, is passwords. Everybody's got bad passwords. They think they're good, but they're not. And it's not their fault. Your average website out there, when it asks you to create a password, it gives you this 8-character number, letter, symbol protocol, which has been used for over 20 years. But people forget that computers get faster every year. People get smarter every year. And now we're in a time where an 8-character number, letter, symbol passwords is so. So
what do you recommend? Longer or?
Well, we talk about, you got to have at least, a minimum of 12. A minimum of 12, and it should be gobbledygook. It shouldn't have any birth dates or anniversaries or code names or initials of your kids or any of that kind of stuff, because of social media and all the stuff we have out there. People go into social media and they start figuring out, oh, wait, your mother's maiden name is this. That's pretty easy to figure out on social media, even though the bank still asks you for that as some sort of ID confirmation. A lot of places are still behind the times. And that 8-character number, letter, symbol thing is on most websites. So people have the impression that's a good good password. It's not. So that's number one. That's the number one problem is bad passwords.
How do you feel about the Apple pre-generated gobbledygook password? I think it's more than 8 characters now.
Yeah. Those are the ideal types of passwords you have is gobbledygook, where you have no chance of remembering them, but then nobody else does either. And so we talk about, how you can do that and make it manageable as well. Because we all have hundreds of passwords. How the heck do you remember them? Right? And it's a challenge to remember them all when you use memory tricks, like changing an A to an @ sign, so you can include a symbol in that required, 8-character number, letter, symbol scenario. So, but the criminals know about all those little tricks, and they've got algorithms in their computers to just break those down in seconds. So, however clever we think we're being by using passwords we can remember, not working.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you go. What's the second?
That's a key area, and then of course the email is another issue, and then another issue is to update your software. And it's interesting because we talk in the class about how if you ask the experts what's the most important top 3 things you would do to stay safe online, their number one thing is updating software. Whereas the non-experts say, oh, you should have antivirus or something. And that's not, antivirus is just not that helpful when you look at the overall scope of things. But
so keeping your operating systems up to date, your your phone operating system up to date,
Yeah, because the average time between when a hole in software, whatever device you're using, your phone, your tablet, your computer, the average time from when the criminals discover the hole and then the company who wrote the software actually figures out they discovered this hole and they make a patch to fix it, the average time frame is about 8 months. So 8 months of exposure on average. So when you get that update, you've already been exposed on average for 8 months. So you do those updates as soon as you can. That's a huge thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So these are all weaknesses that we all do out there, and so the class covers these key areas of issues. But there's more. There's a lot more out there, and there's more that we can teach in 3 hours. So eventually there's other stuff that you can do beyond that we help people. We've got the SciPro designation they can look into and become they can become a member and stay up to date on all that stuff as well.
Now, do you find that real estate agents are still surprised when you tell them about the potential risk, or are they more so over the last couple of years kind of come to realize that this might be an important aspect of keeping themselves and clients fixed?
Let me bend out of sight for a second and just say that when I get the evals from the class, it's 100%. Excellent class, whatever. And, when they make comments, the comments are things like, amazing what I didn't know. That's, random comments I pull out of here. And I've got a box full of these that, it's just, that's the consistent feedback we get from this class is, wow, you opened my eyes. Wow, I had no idea, things like that. They don't know. They have no idea how far behind they are in terms of these techniques. Go ahead.
So, Jack, when I see when you do the exercise on phishing someone's email, that takes a certain amount of technical skills to do those types of things. But when you show the agents, it's easy to do those types of technical things. That is a wow moment for them, because they're thinking that it takes some wizard, or to some high tech person to do it. And it doesn't. You can do it. I could do it. Max could do it. I mean, it's like 1, 2, 3. You do this, you do that. You go grab somebody's logo. You create the. I mean, I think that when they see how easy it is, and they all think that anything technical is difficult, and when they see how easy it is,
that's true. Good point.
That is just a wow moment for them. I can see it when we have the class. Yeah.
Well, and the fourth area we cover is we talk about Wi-Fi safety and, using the VPN and that, secure websites and that kind of stuff, because the information you're sending out over the air many times is unencrypted, and people that know what they're doing can intercept that information, whether it's passwords you're entering or whatever. And so, a video we play in the class, it shows this girl that has a computer, and she's demonstrating how if she was sitting in a coffee shop, she could be picking your information out of the air, and it'll come right out, through her computer to the actual router you think you're connected to. The program she uses to do that, you can buy online for $25.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's easy for someone to become a criminal. I thought about that. I thought,
that's why there's so many criminals. It's easy.
I could make part of a billions of dollars, or
right.
25 a student. I don't know. Which way am I going to make money here?
Right. It just surprises me, the real estate and both the lending industry still is so far behind when it comes to like keeping information safe. I mean, in the financial services, the banking industry, you got to have, fraud and like money laundering and cybersecurity training happens like on an annual basis. And it's like a strict, mandate that you have to follow. Yet, one of the largest transactions that we ever do in our lifetimes in that industry, there's not still much of a focus on it, which is incredible, which is baffling. And I hopefully, that, with both at your efforts here, that changes, and that should be a requirement, because anytime there's a singular risk where, you do something and it can ruin a person's life or your career. I mean, I think that should be pretty important. All right. To make sure you're knowledgeable.
Here's the amazing thing too. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that I think that the RJ should run an article on you, and that this class should possibly be opened up to more than just real estate agents.
And I've looked into that. I've talked to the mortgage industry briefly about that. Like down at the division, they've got their own licensing requirements, and I've talked to the division. Blah blah blah. There are some other opportunities, yes, and it should be. It's amazing how most people out there don't understand these basic principles and how they leave you wide open. To give you kind of a comparison, imagine leaving your house unlocked and all your jewelry on the kitchen table and a sign that says, hey, we've got valuables here. Because that sign saying we have valuables sitting outside your front door would be like an agent being on Facebook saying, I've got a cash buyer, somebody, anybody have a listing for me? As soon as you say you have a cash buyer, the criminals are like, wait a minute, that's $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 going to get transferred somewhere along the way. Let me see if I can get in the middle of that one. And so they start stalking you and following you to see how they can maybe hack you. And again, email, like you mentioned, there's so many different ways to do the emails. We talk about Gmail because you can spoof it, meaning you have Jack Lindberg at gmail.com. Someone else can get Jack Lindberg and maybe change the I to an L, and just change one little letter, get their own Gmail, and then trick your clients into thinking it's you, saying, hey, we changed the wire transfer instructions. I know I told you that I don't get involved in that, but this is an emergency this one time, and hurry up and send the money, and the clients will believe that stuff. So there's all these issues, just in email alone, getting emails that trick you into sending information you shouldn't be sending. That's phishing, and there's spear phishing and all that.
Or clicking on links. I mean, they're getting way better and better. I see emails like I'm getting a rush of like Amazon fraud emails. Your account is locked. To reset your password, click here, right? Like people don't realize they click in a, or especially that this is the reason why you need to put your phone down once in a while, because we're on the run, we're looking at a phone, and we see something like that, we just click. How many people just click on links, unconsciously?
Wife and I'm like, you can't do these things. I don't
right.
My husband did it too, Jack.
No, they're getting good though. It's pretty convincing. I was looking. You have to really sit and read it. The days of them misspelling words and like Russian characters in there. You can see the spot. I mean, they're over. I mean, I seen some pretty legit looking emails with everything, almost every single element that the real company would send.
Oh, and you want to get really scary? There's ways to mimic fonts and create a separate font that looks just like your standard font that would be an online font like Arial, and then go out and get a Gmail address with that font that Gmail thinks is different letters than what yours is, so they can actually make the email look exactly like yours. And then, trick people. And so there's all kinds of really weird tricks out there. So the bottom line is, like you said, you need to stop, take a minute, read, think. If you get an email that says do something you should wonder, why am I getting this email? Who's sending it? And maybe contact the people sending it, say, hey, is this from you really? That kind of stuff. What do you just think about it? Think a minute.
Right. Yeah. And not only that, I mean, I think agents, if they really want to take this serious, they should educate their clients when they begin the relationship on this subject matter, right? Here's what you should expect, and here's the things that I will be sending and whatever, and here's something that you should never respond to, right? Just to train their clients to also do and be aware, because and I mean, this thing is real. We've seen so many people experience wire fraud in the real estate industry. It's crazy, and I'm interested to see. I don't know if any brokers out there have actually hired someone to do like an audit of their brokerage place, right? Because I've walked through real estate agents, title companies, right, and mortgage companies where they still have files of their clients on their desk, and I don't even recall ever having any training when I was in the mortgage industry about locking your files on your way home, right? I mean, it'd be interesting to see how much information with cleaning crews coming in. I mean, it'd be surprising. People will, and the division should maybe do an audit themselves, because this is a big risk to them.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the division, the people at the division, they were educated when I first brought this information to them a few years ago, and the commission as well. They opened their eyes and said, "Wow, this is serious." Which brings up another point, by the way. Another reason to be up on this subject is if you end up in front of the commission because you did something or you didn't do something to protect yourself, the commission's more educated now than they were. A couple of them have taken our class, and the rest of them have seen the entire outline and content, and they approved it. So they're not going to be as forgiving and saying, "Oh, well, it's technology. None of us are good at that." They're aware now that there are some basic things we can do to be much more protected, and they're not going to give you a break if you're there, and you have your password as password, and you got hacked. It's just not. They're not going to give you any leeway for that one.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, Jack, you bring up. I think you and I both bring this up at every class, and maybe we should take some steps with the Board of Realtors. There should be platforms, like you said, portals, where documents are not emailed. They're put on a particular platform through a portal. That way, this valuable information doesn't get, into somebody's email, the client's email. They can really be hijacked.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
easier than an agent if an agent has taken our class, but the client still has their Gmail. They still have, things that people can hijack them.
Yeah, and ultimately the transaction management platform should be the ones to do it. But I sat down with Lee Barrett, who's now the president-elect of the board, and he was the first person I took this class to, and he was the first one behind it. And
Yeah.
Jimmy Dague was right there too. These are the two people I went to when I first brought this class up. And now that Lee's president-elect, I think that I have his ear, and I'm working on some stuff with him anyway. So I'm going to keep working with him on this, this subject to make the board and everybody that's a member better. And I'm sure that he'll help me do whatever he can.
Yeah, Lee's great. I mean, I remember 6 years ago, I wrote the very first kind of social media marketing class for real estate agents, and where it was able to submit it to the board to get the CE credits for. And it was so for whatever reason, they're backed up, whatever. It was taking weeks. And then I saw Lee at a class, and he wasn't even the president at the time. He was just, teaching a class at the Galvar. And I told him I wrote a class, and they're holding it up in the thing. And literally the next day, I got an email to get it all approved. So Lee's a magic maker in our town when it comes to real estate.
Yeah, people listen.
People listen to Lee. So if you have a good idea and it's relevant to what's happening in the real estate world here in Las Vegas, he's a great president. Glad he's back in that seat.
Yep, I agree.
So I mean, what's next? We got another 5 minutes or so. I want to actually talk about one of the things that is happening right now. There's talks right now of obviously the Ukraine and Russia conflict, but there's a side talk about how the new wars in the future is not going to be a war with guns and tanks and soldiers, but actually to bring down a country, you got to breach their data, right, and their security and stuff like that. I mean, have you any thoughts on that whole subject and where the world's moving and how countries are infiltrating each other here through cybersecurity?
Yeah, the thought is you don't want to know. Seriously, if you're really into this subject and you really want to kind of get more knowledgeable about it in general, there's a book that came out probably 5 years ago now called Future Crime. It blew my mind. I listened to it as an audio book a couple of years ago, and I had been up on cybersecurity. I've been doing the cybersecurity side of things since 2013, 2012, really when I first presented to the NAR Risk Management Committee. I had concerns about how they were teaching Facebook in ePro. And so I went and I spoke to the NAR Risk Management Committee and said, hey, this is not the way you teach Facebook. You have to use lists and blah, blah, blah. But this book tells you about things you don't want to know that's going on in the background. It's ridiculous how open our infrastructures, our electrical grids, and all these things are really open and not open, but they're hackable. The
White House
easily. Yeah, I mean it's just it's horrible to think that it's even possible. But yeah, the right person in the right situation can shut down an entire East Coast electrical grid or something, and so more needs to be done. And I know that there's a lot of the government's putting a lot of resources into this subject, but it's always an issue because software is just inherently it has issues, and people write software. There's always going to be a hole somewhere along the way, and I was a hacker in my early days. I remember reverse engineering our MLS back in the early 90s so that I could get stats on what other agents were selling, and then I'd go to a listing. And how many sales did that agent say they had? And I'd pull it up. No, that's not really what they had. And I was the only one that could do it because I figured out how to kind of back into the data that was there. So, and that's really, sometimes it's a pretty simple process. And I just watched a movie last night called Hackers from 1995 or something.
With Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, you know the movie.
Yeah, I know the movie.
But what blew my mind is that guy that was kind of a star of the movie. He was her first husband. It's like somehow they got married after that movie.
Yeah, that's right.
A year later, and I'm like, what?
That's right.
That's crazy. Anyway, but that movie was kind of funny because it's a whole hacking mentality. And the hacking world is a special group of people that they think different, and And we don't, as normal people, understand it. We think all this stuff is really difficult, like Ruthie said, and not for these people. It's just that's what they do, and they understand all the underlying code. And again, it's amazing how weak the underlying code really is. And, like Windows. Windows has been like developed over years. It's like layer and layer and layer on top of Windows, and then every 15 years they'll try to rewrite as much as they can. But there's always some old code that they just continue to use because it's been working, and they don't have time to do whatever. And they all do that, all the stuff. All the major companies. I show a graph at the end where all the major companies, Cisco, Microsoft, Google, they all have been hacked many, many times because that's just the nature of software.
Exactly right. Well, good. So you guys said you have a training this week on Monday?
On Monday, yes.
On Monday.
Yep, it's let's see here. 10
to 1. Start your week off right.
Mm-hmm.
Get your cybersecurity training in, and it's 3 hours of that risk reduction CE, which is that new category that many haven't had a chance to deal with yet. So there's not that many classes that are in that category yet. So
I looked on the board calendar, and there's hardly maybe one every other month or something. So we have one every month, and I think it's just going to grow, definitely. Especially
it has to. It baffles me still. Like, I don't know why this real estate industry, doesn't take cyber crimes and cybersecurity very seriously, because they're dealing with people's social security numbers, bank account numbers. It's a large transaction.
Well, by the way, that's the thing that a lot of realtors tell me is, I don't deal with that stuff anymore. I let the lender deal with that stuff. It's like, yeah, but you still handle, just by nature, you're handling information like how much somebody makes, where they work, where they live, all these things, which lead to that next level of identity theft or whatever else. So don't take that for granted that you're not physically writing down or asking them for their social security numbers. I come from an era in the 80s and 90s of selling real estate where I would try to qualify them myself before we ever talked to a lender. I had the formulas and blah, blah, blah. In today's world, you just hand them to the lender and let them handle it. Give me an approval letter when you're done. But that doesn't mean you still don't have a lot of really important information about people in your file that people can hack, or on your computer, exchanging emails even. First thing I do if I were to hack somebody's email is to search the word within the email. I'd search password. And then I'd look for all those emails that they sent you your password when you forgot it. And then I automatically have all those passwords for all those sites, and then I'd go from there, right? So, and then I would search for other, key personally identifiable information stuff. But the other thing about this class, by the way, that maybe makes it a little bit different is I have a web page set up that after the class, there's specifically go back and go through these 4 key areas. Here's the stuff we taught. Here's what you can do to fix it. Here's the products you can use, like a password manager or VPN, that you can do to actually do the stuff I'm telling you to do in the class. So I don't just send you the PowerPoint.
Right.
I send you a website that actually helps you to follow through at your home or office.
That's a good point.
You have a chance to really do it.
That's a good point. Good point. So, Jack, we have that class Monday, and we have it every month, everybody. And I think in March, it's the last week of March as well. But it's a monthly class that we have. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have reverse mortgages. And there are so many options nowadays for seniors. And we're telling the real estate agents to invite their clients, their senior clients, or their people that are 62 and over. And the class is free, and they can Zoom or they can come in person. And that is going to continue to be more popular. There's 30% of our people here in Las Vegas are seniors. And what you can do with a reverse mortgage anymore is just amazing. You can sell your house and buy another house. You can leave the bank. I think one of the biggest myths is that the bank owns your house. It doesn't. It does not own your house. So you can leave your house to your kids. I could leave my house to Jack. I could leave it to Max, and it's all good. There's really no reason not to do it. And to think, like at my age, I was just 75 on Monday.
Yes.
75 and alive, right? And I mean, I'm going to get a reverse mortgage. I'm not going to have a mortgage payment the rest of my life and live in this beautiful home for nothing and get cash out of it at the same time. It's a no-brainer. And then if we do want to sell it, we can sell it and buy another house using the reverse mortgage. It's just amazing. Anyway, I'm very obviously hyped up and enthused about that. And then let's see. Then we have a law class on Thursday. The Attorney General is on the line, and that's an afternoon class. So, and so is the reverse mortgage. So we always have refreshments and, of all kinds, wine, whatever you want, and hors d'oeuvres. So
I think Jimmy has a beard in that photo.
He has a beard now.
He doesn't have that beard anymore. I don't think so.
Yes. Do you live with him?
No, I'm just wondering about, because I took that photo.
He still has it. He has a beard, and my grandma used to say, "Why would you put that ugly hair on that pretty face?" But he evidently his significant other likes it. So I said, "Oh, I'm not going to say another word."
There you go.
He's handsome anyway, whatever. So anyway, we have 3 classes this week, all really good information, the risk reduction, the reverse mortgage, and the law class. So lots going on this week. I know I won't be doing much else but working. Not bad. I don't complain.
All right. Well, Jack, appreciate you coming back on, giving us some tidbits here on cybersecurity, and join Jack class on Monday.
Yes.
All right. From 10 to 1 at bee.vegas to sign up.
You got it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Love everybody. Thank you, Jack, so much. And